Okay, yeah, it is now. Good evening. This is Spectrum Voices Conversation here every Sunday from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. UK time and 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, United States. This is Sunday, the 5th of May 2024. Um, Later on in the broadcast, as usual, we'll do the Facebook post sharing and discussion from those posts. But firstly, we're going to do as usual the kind of update on our activities and stuff that we do. Just the work that we're doing. And Julian, there's a little summary for that. So
Yeah,
hand
I'm
over
happy
to
to
you,
take.
Julian.
Yeah, thank you. I'm happy to take that over. Just 10 minutes. I'm just going to try to keep it to 10 minutes.
It's
And
fine.
the first thing I have to say is, for those who have been following the story of our potential cooperation with the Autistic Network, as they call themselves, we've hit the buffers, chaps. Um, I've done absolutely everything I can think of to try and convince a certain chap who has control of the circumstances to facilitate for us a seat at the table. And it's been a very instructive and interesting journey for me. Um, and it hasn't had a positive outcome. Um, it seems very unlikely that a positive outcome is going to come from it. And if, as we were saying earlier when we were talking off air, Harry, the the positive outcome for me is the whole story in itself. It's have to have experienced the kind of obstruction of giving an autistic group a seat at the table, however relevant the experience that they were offering was. Um, that that was the product in the end. That it was always going to be a win-win situation for me. As the yes minister Kafkaesque twists and turns of the email chains and the online meetings with the promises of this and the oh we do value that, um, that was never going to lead to a seat at the table. It was always going to be, for me, entertaining in a rather macabre way, but it was always going to be, for me, the win-win was so much material of having somebody saying one thing and then all the evidence being there that they do another. Um, Maybe if people hear of how that went and how that goes, we can avoid it a bit. We can change it. We can push the situation where the people who are offering the table get to really benefit. Um, I think I want us to move on as a group. We have an offer on the table. It's an offer that prescribes what we are requested to provide. Um, it's not an offer to decide what we think would be best to provide. And it's, in business terms, rather naive in that after being offered a ridiculously low price for a service that was quite comprehensive and would have used a lot of hours of my time and your time and everybody's time, there was a quibbling over finances, um, which is another indicator of how somebody values the situation. And the crux for me is that the Columbo moment, when the detective is finally satisfied that they've tied everything up and they understand how things happened and what the situation was, even knowing that there's not going to be any problem or justice for the for how the murderer gets away with it. I've got to that moment, you know, I've seen how, but the likelihood is that nothing will happen in that particular case. I would like us to move to another idea for a programme in the podcast, A Seat at the Table, and that would be to say that we make the table. And we make the table in a business format. There are enough people out there who are autistic who are making the table by creating a charity or creating a organisation of some kind for pressuring or political means. But there's another seat at the table, and I want us to explore that in our series, and that is making a business that serves the needs of autistic people better than the offerings that are already out there on the market, because that's what we are. We are the raw materials of somebody's product as autistic people. And then if we make that podcast together, it'll get it out of my system. The other thing we have to report is a rather wonderful find and a conversation that we had with Stuart Harvey just in the recording session here on a Sunday, just in Scotland, right just before we take on the live that Harry will be introducing in 3 minutes' time. And Stuart is one of those beacons of positivity. He's doing a job that people look at him, they say, that doesn't fit my autistic stereotype. And it's a valuable job, as he can testify. He's recently been made to feel it's valuable, made to recognise it. And it goes also back to the conversation we had about driving ourselves, where a lot of us said that we have driving licences, but we choose not to drive for lots of different reasons. And driving has been limited by our autism, and in fact transport generally. But we also in that conversation had examples of people that travel across the world. And here, Stuart's a lorry driver, a long distance driver, the actual professionals of the road. So that's kind of like that's degree level driving. It's a tough job. So, and it's nice that in the live afterwards, Stuart's going to be joining us live. Not this time from his cab, though he's done that before. In our other projects, we are slowly making our way through conversations about behaviourism, and we have another guest. On Monday we have Mr. Swartfigger, who's going to be coming back, and we'll be talking about we'll be keeping that conversation going, that important conversation going. There's a lot going on here at Autistic Radio. Not all of those things are yet far enough along the line for us to speak about them out here. But it's really nice that people like Mr. Harvey, who I've just mentioned, came across us through the algorithm on the internet and found our website, and then Mr. Nick Glover found us by listening to our radio output and our podcasts, and various other professionals are now in contact with us through Facebook or through the LinkedIn application. So yeah, Harry, we're making progress.
Yeah, absolutely we are, and it, the progress just keeps on going. Some that it's progressing faster than others, but there's still progress, and I'm really pleased with it.
Will you introduce the show?
Yep, I'm just making sure that you are actually finished. I wasn't sure.
I was on one there, wasn't I? I really was.
You were given an update, and now I've realised you've finished. So
I
now
feel as though
I
I should
will.
have a uniform, maybe, or some stripes, or some pips on my shoulders, or
Yeah.
comrades. This is a revolution.
I mean, what's good about this is it isn't scripted, so we get moments like this. It makes it feel a lot more human and flexible and authentic. Flexible, authentic, especially if there's one or two new faces or voices joining us. So yeah, this is Spectrum Voices Conversation here every Sunday, 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. UK time, which is 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in the United States. This is the Facebook sharing and discussion part of the broadcast. Sunday, the 5th of May 2024. And what we generally do is just work way back from the most recent post shared and we work back to the time that we have. So the first post is from Emergent Divergence, the neurodivergent ramblings of David Gray Hammond, who is an author of books, writer of blogs, advocate, mentor, trainer, and self described professional nuisance. And what is shared is about autism and pain when pain management options are limited. And it's an article, so I'll read a part of it so we can have a wee discussion on it. It was originally written in June the 24th, 2023. It's called Autism and Pain When Pain Management Options Are Limited. And what he says is, I've recently been writing about the autistic experience of pain and the risk that it presents to autistic people when medical professionals do not understand the way we display pain. Some of us, however, live with chronic pain and prescribe painkillers. For a lot in that position, narcotic pain relief serves as the only option. What people often don't realise is that being able to use narcotic pain relief is a privilege, and not all of us have that privilege. I am not only autistic, ADHD, and schizophrenic. As of 2023, I'm 7 years sober from drug addiction. Say that again. I am 7 years sober from drug addiction. Take three. I am 7 years sober from drug addiction. The drugs I was using that are the most relevant to this conversation were opioids.
That's a bit ironic there because it sounds as though you're slightly tipsy there yourself. I
I'm
couldn't help
checking.
laughing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it says I'm 7 years sober from drug addiction. The drugs I was using that are most relevant to this conversation were opioids, benzodiazepines, pregabalin, cannabis, and spice. I was using all these drugs very dangerously, and as a result, of choosing a life of complete abstinence. And if I hadn't, doctors would not prescribe me anything similar to them anyway. This has left me with very few options for the pain experience related to my hypermobility. Realistically, I can only take paracetamol and naxaprofen. Neither of these offer much relief from bad pain days, but they do reduce the pain just enough that I can mask it. So, excuse all the pronunciations there. I'm a tongue gets a bit tied, but it's a good, an interesting topic. You know, the autism and pain, and how people with autism experience pain, particularly people that have had addictions in the past, and how that can complicate the kind of treatments and remedies that people can take to tackle this. What's people's thoughts?
I'm really happy to read that because it's so much more in depth than something I commented on last time we saw the share from the guy, and it really felt like a helpful thing he was saying out there. Um, there's a huge amount of denial amongst us, especially amongst the old autistic group, when it comes to our using of substances, alcohol and cannabis and the prescription stuff in cocktails together, with slightly multiplying effects and unknown consequences often, but we feel as though we're drawn and we're pushed into experimenting with them because there is enough information to say that a lot of autistic people do have extremely different experiences of pain to the general population, in sometimes the same human being having an immunity in one situation and an intense sensitivity in another situation. So it's a very complicated world, and it does lead us into difficulty with these substances, self-medicating, and also the cocktails that were offered by the standard medical profession. It's a real big issue, this.
Yep, it's something, even though we've touched on it briefly before, it's something I've never thought about until very recently. Because of the way that some autistic people respond to pain, it's like some medical professionals have misdiagnosed or misidentified the situation. And it's actually, I'm sure I read somewhere, that's actually led to someone's tragic death, because they weren't showing or the so-called normal signs of someone being in intense pain. It's something I've never really thought before this sort of conversation kind of come up in the last couple of weeks, is how autistic people, or even myself, just say, feels pain. But I do recall that when I used to play football, and because I was a goalkeeper and used to dive like a maniac, because I used to drink a lot of caffeine while playing football. Red Bull, I know, ridiculous. And the way I jumped about, I hurt my shoulder and hurt my knees. And I do recall there was a time where I was taking paracetamol and caffeine, and that was like the sort of treatment to remedy my knees, because I was playing like 3 times a week, and I was saying to myself, "Am I going to damage my knees and my shoulder, whatever?" But so it was like a coping mechanism, just to get on with it, which is a bit strange considering it's a hobby. So that could have escalated into ibuprofen and all that as well. But it's just something that just came out of my head there just now. The remedies, the thing to tackle pain, and then you try things to see if they work in terms of, will this reduce the pain, and how long should you take it, and how dangerous and how unhealthy that can be. So it is an interesting one.
I've been asked to turn my microphone up. Is that too loud?
No, it's fine for me.
I think it's a denial thing that that is a situation that people find themselves in, especially of the elder generation. I don't think the majority of people manage to control and deal with all of these different substances very well on their own. I think we all do need somebody else in our life monitoring our drinking, our smoking, our taking of various drugs. A lot of these habits have been marketed in such ways and also contain so many things that are attractive to autistic people. The routines, the fidgeting, the gadgets, all the little things that go around the habits, and we are vulnerable to excess usage of some things that could be helpful in our lives. I really don't know half the time whether it's worth having this discussion, because there doesn't seem to be that much that you can lead people towards except abstinence, and abstinence is hard. I had to give up alcohol, and it was a very bad experience. I wouldn't recommend it to anybody. I also wouldn't recommend AA or congratulating yourself on different milestones. I would try to work and put it behind you as quickly as possible and cope with it in your own individual way, because other people's way is probably not appropriate for you as an autistic person. But I'm unqualified.
Well, the milestone thing, I feel I've actually, it was the same post the author, David Gray Hammond, that actually shared a milestone about sobriety. So it kind of links in with this. If it's a personal milestone, it's something worth, because of the experience he had before, and he thought that he wouldn't be able to get to that stage. So the milestone in that sort of instance is inspirational, because it just shows you how strength can get you past. But obviously that can't happen for everyone. But groups and things like the and groups settings for drug rehabilitation or drug addiction support might not always suit autistic people, but it is a tough conversation. It's all individually based, but it's
It is a
interesting
really
topic.
tough conversation because if it's really difficult to say that something that is proved to work for so many people and such a large group of the population, and even autistic people have, it's been proved to work, and but I still feel as though it's probably not the most appropriate setting for autistic people. It's only a little bit of a balancing voice, I suppose. If somebody has found it hasn't worked for them, that they shouldn't beat themselves up about it, that there is a way through it, and it might be that you just have to do it a different way as an autistic person to other people. It's not a failure. You've got another opportunity, another way of looking at it, and another bite of the cherry if that's what you want to do. I have a different way of dealing with alcohol now. I don't drink it, and that's putting it off into the future and saying, at some significant birthday, a long way in the future, I probably will have a drink. Now, I also probably know that when I get to that point, I probably won't have that drink, but it's always there, and that's the kind of thing I think autistic people would benefit from more than spending a lot of time in a social situation with other people who have got it very badly wrong with alcohol. It might be a good sharing opportunity at first, but I just think there are reservations.
Totally agree. Everyone's different.
Um, Justin has texted in to say that he heard the amount he was talking about, and he said it's a bit dangerous. But he also talked about paracetamol and caffeine at the same time, Harry, and he wants you to sort of take attention of that. Justin says dangerous combination, and yeah.
Appreciate it, Justin. I don't do it now. I haven't done it for many years, but I do recall, pulling myself up about it, going, "What are you doing?" But it just shows you the easy habits you can get into. Because I was always into caffeine, because caffeine in my mind gets me up in the morning. But it would be a dangerous combination. But I haven't been involved in football for nearly 10 years now, so. But I did stop a while before then, but absolutely, I do agree with that. You've got to watch and what you're mixing with.
Should we leave a gap in case anybody else wants to add to this conversation, because it's quite a serious one?
The next post is from NeuroWild. NeuroWild is a speech therapist, illustrator, arts and humanities website. And the description is, I'm M, autistic and EHD, speech pathologist, illustrator, advocate, and mum to 3 neurodivergent kiddos. And what they've shared, there's a picture with quotes in it, but I'll talk about supporting text first, and then maybe look onto that while we're further in discussion. What they're saying is, I have less and less patience with adults who are adamant that they have already learned everything they need to learn in their career in relation to the adult, the autistic. Say that again. I have less and less patience with adults who are adamant that they've learned everything they need to learn in their career in terms of professional autism. Oh, Jesus. I'll say
Are
it
you
one more
wanting
time.
somebody else to read that, Mister?
No, I don't know what's going on. I think I'm getting too used to it because it gets edited, but I forget I'm live. I'll read
It's a
it
lot of
again.
words. That's the problem.
No, it's
You
fine.
know,
It's fine.
isn't it so obvious that we use so many words as autistic people?
Yep, and I'm happy to do it. So I'll read it again. Basically, what it is, it's about autism professionals and experienced autism professionals. And I was trying to add that in. So it says, I have less and less patience with adults who are adamant that they've already learned everything they need to learn in their career. Things change, information changes, society changes. What I learned about autistic kids at uni 10 plus years ago was absolute rubbish. None of that information holds up today. Even the stuff being taught a few years ago, even the stuff being taught by non autistic lecturers now, we need to stay on top of it. We need to get our info from the right places. Telling me I've been doing this job for 20 years does not fill me with confidence. It tells me that you've been working with harmful information from way back, and I hope you have done some autistic led PD recently and changed your practice. But more often than not, that's not the case. Why are so many adults afraid to unlearn the harmful, outdated stuff? I don't understand. M.
I wish we had a cheering sound effect because, yeah, it isn't wordy. It's very pithy. It contains everything, doesn't it? It's true.
Yep, very hard hitting and very true. Um, the picture that they shared themselves, the quotes have been shared, a nice kind of picture. It's with flowers, and colourful. And the two quotes that shared with an answer under them, I'll read out just now. First one says, your kid is too inflexible. And the answer is, it's said by an adult who refuses to be flexible with my kid. And the other one is, your kid needs to learn about the perspectives of others. Said by an adult who is unwilling to consider the perspective of my kid. So, good balancing act there. And I can identify with it because I can recall someone saying to me many years ago, not as a child, but I can remember going on in a rant. I was stressed about something, overthinking, and someone said to me, a professional, not everybody thinks the way that you do. Try and think of other people's perspectives. And then, although it was helpful in the main, it made me think of how can I think for others? it's, it opens a can of worms, but gets to the point.
We're all supposed to have soaked up with their perspectives as we go along, aren't we? And they can't think for what it's like not to have done that.
Yeah, is that the case? Yeah, we're supposed to learn perspectives in life in general and try to adapt to that. I think we try that anyway. But I think, in my case anyway, sometimes I get wrapped up in my own worries and my own head, my own views. Although I've always, I was brought up. I think the autistic sense of justice, as we've talked about before, tries to make you feel that you try to be as fair as possible anyway. But I think you just get wrapped up in your own mind, and it's such a small world at times. And then people do help and talk about perspectives and things like that. But what this is talking about, in fairness, is the autistic professionals, or many autistic professionals, have been trained and have learned. They've got all this wealth of experience, and a lot of the stuff that it's well, it will be outdated because it dates so quickly. Are still using it as a practice. They're still using it as a method, and it's harmful because it's outdated. But the fallback they say is, well, I've done this for years. I know what I'm talking about. But as Will says, as people with autism, no one can know more than the lived experience itself. Not textbooks, not the wealth of information or whatever diagrams, whatever. That's what people. People who live it know more than. Obviously, they can only know their own experience, but they'll know more than the autistic professional. But obviously, there'll be autistic professionals that are flexible, that do look to change as time has progressed, and that will be the kind of the other side, the flip over of that. But it is worrying that just because someone's been involved in something for so many years doesn't mean that they're exactly right, because things do change. And as it says in the post, that information changes. Like, you don't use the word Asperger's syndrome anymore. And that's, some people still use that. And society changes. As we know, society changes all the time. It's trying to be as inclusive than it was before, although there's some resistance. So,
I think
and
the kind though. I think the post is kind when it says 20 years, because autism is changing so fast that actually anybody that's been out there with the 10-year-old ideas is out of date. You know, it's changing so fast. A different population is being classified as autistic. Yes.
Yeah, well, that shows how backed up it becomes for the pros to all catch up, especially the busy ones, repeating the routines they know. They've got to find time to actually pick up on their radar. Changes coming from all directions, not all of which are going to stick.
That last bit you said about all directions, it changes coming at them from all directions, and the bits that stick. Yeah, that's really where we're at the moment, in the cutting edge of getting a seat at the table, isn't it?
Even picking the right table.
what the post does highlight to me, this is something I've kind of noticed, or something I'm aware of, and I'm only becoming more aware of it, since I've been involved in Autistic Radio on this project, is things have changed that fast. As they talk about autism being the part of the neurodivergent model. I mean, how long has that discussion been taking place? Because it still seems very, very recent. It's a good discussion. It's more inclusive, and it's very interesting. I love to learn more. I'm just kind of wondering, how long is that being out, and in comparison to the past?
Well, look, I can only refer people to what I said in the introduction, right back at the beginning, and people won't get it on the edit, but they can hear it on the Podbean replay. We've been working with an organisation that has absolutely stood in our way, and it's because they are 20 years ago. They're whitewashed with neurodiversity, but they did everything that they could to stop us from having a meaningful input into something that was entirely aimed at us, the elder autistic group. That's your example of the status quo there, that we've managed to, we didn't change it, but we managed to sort of get the whole story of it. But then we're going to be, I've just had a conversation, and we're going to be speaking with somebody like Jim Taylor. And he gets it. And he's continuously upgrading himself and continuously getting his head around it by speaking directly to autistic people. So, while on the one hand we've got this lovely example of unprofessional incompetence, and this example of a kind of Kafkaesque just minister stopping us even influencing something going on and being designed entirely without us, to another person who's doing exactly the opposite and trying to bring us in. It's great in some ways, because the dinosaurs are going to go.
The next post is from Brightfire Community Interest Company, CIC, non-profit organisation, mental health services for autistic and ADHDers, diagnosed or self-identified clients welcome. And what they've shared is about crochet, and they're sharing a few examples of crochet or finished crochet. And what they're saying is crochet is such a perfect autistic stim. Here are a few pieces made by the crochet teacher Amber at the workshop that they went to today. Anyone here who crochets, do share your creations. We would love to see them. I'm at the start of my crochet journey, but I can tell I'm going to get hooked. Let's see your pieces. So this is like one way of stimming, one way of having a hobby. So it's a great example, a positive example. I just thought it'd be nice to share.
Prospects of picking up the routine. Too much stress. Folks can at least research online know how easy they think it will be or hard.
The next
These are a lot
post.
smaller jobs than knitting. These are a lot smaller jobs than knitting things. They take quick do. That's the attraction of them.
Thanks, Morris. The next post is from Neurodivergent Girl. Personal blog, rising creator, married, mum of 2 boys, diagnosed ADHD and autistic, low support needs. This is a safe place. Personal description. And what's been shared is a post from Steve Silberman. And what it says, instead of funding research that seeks to prevent autism, on which billions have already been wasted, we should be funding research that enables autistic people of all ages to live happier, healthier, safer, and more engaged lives in their communities. And this was posted as part of last um, month's Autism Acceptance Month, June, April. It's a good point. What prevents autism? I mean, who's the one out there trying to prevent autism? I mean, what's that all about?
It's about distressed parents with intense symptoms and who've not watched the Chris Packham series. Not gone into how under the surface can be facilitated to come to the surface. We know these emotions are kind of the starting point of the billions. There's a later learning process. We're still trying to generate a demand for kind of sociology researchers against life issues of our own perceiving instead of some committees perceiving. Table again.
Well, look, Steve Silverman's one of the go-to guys, and if people haven't come across him, just put that name out there. We'll definitely have a link in our podcast. There's an awful lot with the name Silverman on it that is well worth a look. I need to go over to what people are saying over in our texting room, and it's a tough one because Justin is saying, wow. Justin's texted, he says, we shouldn't prevent autism, exclamation mark. We should encourage it. And then he said, I don't understand it, Harry, exclamation mark. And I have an autistic child, and there is nothing that I would have done to have prevented her autism. She is having a wonderful, challenging life, and if you took all of those neurotypical markers that people have in their pride in their offspring, every single one of those has been ticked by this autistic adult woman. Yes, it's such a horrible concept that more is put into trying to weed us out, discover us in our womb, look at our DNA so that some DNA can be used and some DNA cannot be used for infertility clinics. It is a terrible thing if our society loses autistic people. And it's not about superpowers, but it is about variety and the right person in the right place, and sometimes we are that person. Well, Harry's just popped off for a couple of minutes. Justin says that's absolutely correct to me. So it's a bit embarrassing to read out somebody who, when you make an emotional statement like that, and it is an emotional statement. It is intended to be an emotional statement. It is intended to genuinely express how I feel about life and death and autism and birth and who you would give birth to and who you bring up and how you look after a child and make them reach their absolute and best potential. And for the autistic elder group, people of my age who haven't had children, there is something missing in not being able to pass on what we have learnt to the next generation that we need in other ways. We need to have access to be able to influence and comfort and support and show an example to the generation that comes up below us, whether they are our own children, our friends' children, or our relatives. We often have an autistic child in our group somewhere, and we benefit and we need as much to give a little bit of autistic perspective to that generation as we can, and it goes both ways. We get something from it. I kept your place warm there, Harry, with another emotional statement. I wonder if you'll edit it out.
Who knows? Who knows? No, that's very good. Very good points that you made there. Especially referring to autistic people who don't have children, like myself. It's like it just feels amazing. I mean, I was diagnosed. I was more luckier than others. I was diagnosed when I was 17, and there's been so much that's been learnt from then to my age now, which is 43, and it's just like, and I think my dad says this years ago. It's like you learn so much as you get older. It's like you wish you knew that when you were younger. I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's true, and it's the same when it comes to learning things about the autistic way, and my own autistic experience in terms of life, living experience, and how I look at it in comparison to what I was the way I looked at it before, and the way that others describe it. I mean, that post in itself, and Justin picked up on it, is the prevention of autism. The funding research that seeks to prevent autism, which it says billions have already been wasted. Billions. It's like you can't prevent autism. Autism is a way of someone. It's a way of being, in my opinion. It's the way that your brain is. It's not your brain is abnormal. It's the way it is. It's just it doesn't fit with how society or many societies are run. So it looks abnormal, it looks dysfunctional, all those kind of horrible words that, it's not even the worst words that you can use. So, yep, no, I totally get, it becomes emotional. I mean, I'm coming emotional now. I'm getting my high horse. Um, so yeah, but it does bring a lot out. And what I've done, while you were talking, is I looked up Steve Silberman and I've added to the follow, the pages to follow. So that's something else that's been added as a positive.
Yeah, I think I come across him on the social media Quora. And he's also an author. It's a big deal, but unlike some of the big deals out there, he speaks a lot of sense, and he says things that other people aren't saying that I find need saying. He's certainly not the 20-year-old autistic, professional doing the circuit, making money with a group of autistic sycophants going around the country. And we know that there are a couple of those that are, those snake oil salesmen with their 40-year-old ideas. It's a really good one to follow for people.
I look forward to sharing his stuff. And just to highlight, I forgot to highlight that it was that spicy autistic femme that shared that through Neurodivergent Girl. I just like to credit as many people as possible, and that's a page that we also follow, which is who's a blogger, diagnosed autistic female, sharing things I relate to and or agree with. So I just thought I'd add that.
I want to quickly bring in Justin's comments on the previous thing when I was talking about us older guys wanting to pass stuff on to younger people, and Justin's pointed out the ever young Justin, I have to say, a man who manages to continue to look into his 20s. Now he's 42. Lucky, fortunate, whatever. He says he's 42 and he feels the same way about it. That kind of, I am a man, I've had a tough world being autistic, and I've got a few things I could pass on. I think that's basically what he's saying at 42.
Yeah, I feel the same way, absolutely. And this is one way, Autistic Radio, the podcasts and things that we do, people we speak to, it's all sharing together and taking it forward to help others.
Do you mentioned that, and one of the weird things, I get into the statistics and I look at the different countries that are listening to us in English, and there are surprising countries that are just looking for any information about autism that comes from autistic people and not from their own censorship in their own areas, or places which have some very odd views and it's another part of it. And I sometimes forget that we're doing that there are other people out there who just want to listen to other autistic people and feel normalised by it.
Yeah, it's a good feeling knowing that. I do recall that there's some people that did speak to us in some of early live broadcasts that were from different parts of the world that we've never thought would get in contact, even though we know we're worldwide. That was asking questions or just giving a comment, or even just giving a text, just as a hello, or that they're agreeing, or it just feels good that that we're doing some good out there. We're sharing, and you say normalizing, because I know what that's like, and I think many of us do, if not all of us. That to be made to feel like an outcast or ridiculous, or definitely feel excluded, to feel included just by a topic, just by even just one word. And it just all makes sense, and it's good to feel that we do that for many people. And that's certainly something I feel great that we do. And the thing we do it on a Sunday, because the thing we do it on a Sunday in the first place is because Sunday evenings in the UK anyway, is usually a lull, and the time is just perfect in terms of the UK and that particular time. Zone.
1 o'clock in the afternoon in the United States, isn't it?
Yep, it's a Sunday, so quiet time.
Justin says sharing and normalising. So it's all of us. Anybody who's spoken on this has just said that word normalising is an important word. I've got something that's too early to talk about. Can I let you into a secret? because I've been speaking with one of our collaborators, and we're going to start working on an Australian version of Autistic Radio. It might just be a few podcasts at first, but I really think it would be lovely to have, somebody doing the job that you're doing, Harry, in a different country, and I think that might happen with this one. So yeah, it's too early, but everything's possible.
I just find that kind of interesting time. I just opened a can of Foster's.
Well, I noticed how many people were in our listening figures for Australia. And that has jumped. So yeah, I think it might be one of the interesting places.
Well, a lot of stuff that we share is from Australia, and we've said it many times before that a lot of the, in our opinion, progressive sort of projects, organisations, bloggers, things are positive, things that are looking for positive change, or certainly moving towards positive change, is from Australia. So that's actually a nice, that's actually a great thing to hear. So thanks for that, Julian.
But you know what, mate? The other thing is, because I've got this news at Autistic Radio email address, and I do not burden the rest of the group with the emails that come into that address, I can tell you that everything is not rosy in Autism World in Australia. There's a lot of work to do wherever you are in the world if you want a positive outcome for your autism diagnosis or your autism identity. We do see some really good stuff happening in Australia, but I'm damn sure from my inbox that there are some really tough things happening also. And I'm sure they'll tell us.
Absolutely, and I look forward to that. I mean, I'm sure nothing's ever totally rosy anyway, and there's always a dark side. So, but yeah, I totally look forward to that. However tough the conversations will be, that's something that's nice to share.
It'll be a slow burn, mate. It'll take a long time.
And that's what we're all about as well. I mean, before moving on, I mean, what we're about and what we've tried, well, not we've tried, what we're demonstrating, I think we're demonstrating very well, even particularly with the Facebook as well, is it is a slow burner. We're not in a rush to get thousands and thousands of followers or, to become this big, massive thing. It's like a slow, natural growth, blossoming of the radio, a project, the work that we do, and it's doing it. I feel at a reasonable rate, not too stressful, not too anxious. Of course, you're always going to have challenges along the way, but it's not like every day. In my experience, I'll say, and that's the way I like it, and I think we're doing well by it.
Sometimes we forget that people, when they watch us on Facebook, they can make comments, and in the comments section from a little while ago, quite an important comment. It's really small, it's really short, but it means a lot, and I thank the person for it. One of the people listening today is an autism professional out there who has to navigate the world between autism professionals, autistic people themselves, and somebody who is working both in the office and actually with autistic people. So I don't think I should put the name out there. And what they said in their second post is that we are achieving what we're achieving, reaching out and making community, reaching out for as autistic old farts to younger people with autism or with an autistic identity, however they identify, and they're using listening to us as a professional and passing on through the things that we say to a group that they organise. So it is going somewhere. It's not a waste of time if any one of those kids gets treated in a different way or gets understood in a different way once. So we are a fucking success.
Fantastic. It's a good way to move on. Because our next post is about a podcast that's created from these broadcasts that we do. These live broadcasts, it's turned into like a 40, 50-minute podcast, just depending on how it's edited and what's discussed. And the post is about the live Unmasked, as we call it, from the 21st of April 2024, which is a Facebook sharing discussion on that previous week. And the contributions were from the Autistic Teacher, Autism Adventures Abroad, Jordan James, the Autistic Photographer, Nigh Functioning Autism, the Autism Coach, Swan Autism Scotland, ICANN Network Limited, NT in an ND World, and Spectrum Sloth. And the podcast is a runtime, this particular podcast is a runtime of 49 minutes. And Nigh Functioning Autism and NT in an ND World, I've loved the post, love her, which is good to see. NT in an ND World is thanks plus for the mention. And the share is from Nigh Functioning Autism in their own page. So it's a very popular podcast, and it's only been out for a day. So that was a very good broadcast. It's always interesting listening back to the lives and obviously editing it down for time. And it's always a difficult decision to cut things down a little bit for time. But knowing that the live broadcast recording is out there, that can be listened to as well. So it's not like it's getting cut and then it's away and it's gone forever. It can be listened to. But going through it and listening to the conversations again, because when you're doing it live, it's always it's always different. Listening to my own voice, I'm actually getting to accept my own voice now. At first, I was a bit because apparently nobody likes their own voice, in a recording. But I really do enjoy these, and I'm the one that does the editing. Julian does the preparation. A lot of the stuff that it does for a lot of the podcasts elsewhere, and I do the editing for this one, and it's always enjoyable to do, and just to listen to all the different stuff we talk about, and it's like there's serious stuff, there's humorous stuff. It's also natural, and it's always different, even if it's the same pages or blogs or organisations that we share from. Even if we talk about the same topic, it's always at least slightly different, and it's good to share when we get the podcasts out. And I hear that there are, quite a few listeners to it, Julian.
I've just checked, and that particular episode is 25% of today's listeners. So obviously you're up against a lot of other podcasts. People listen all the way back because they listen in sort of areas of interest to them, but for that one single podcast, getting 25% of the listens in a day seems quite a quite a thumbs up of approval, I would say.
The next post is from AUDHD Surplus. His personal blog, AUDHD Meme Guy Dealing with Chronic Pain and Just Life in General. And the reason I'm laughing, because I sort of can familiarise with this, it's talking about the reaction when they changed the layout at the grocery store. And he says it doesn't have to be the entire store. They could literally just change some signs or maybe a few shelves. Because that means I now have to be mentally present when shopping again now to notice the changes. Rather than just wandering around like a half-conscious zombie so that I don't have to focus my senses on anything else. lots of laughs. So it's a laugh out loud. It's a laughter anyway emoji. So it's a kind of humorous, but I can remember, and I still do this, although I don't go to the shop very often. I try to do things online. But if they change the layout of the shop for any reason, even just one shelf and just putting it, round another place which is not far away, it does annoy me ever so slightly. Although it would annoy me more if it's actually a shelf for something I'm actually looking for. I'm just wondering if people can promote, if people can sort of connect with how I'm feeling, if they feel the same way.
Yeah. Um, I don't know. I think it gets easier. I think it's become not surprising. It's kind of predictable. So it's not as big a deal in my life as it may once have been now. Um, yeah.
Can still be an extra irritation on a stressful day.
Yeah, I think you're right there. I think it's usually about accumulation of things for me. It's usually the last straw effect, and I'm sure my last straw comes before other people when a few things build up. Um, but I'm trying to be cool about it and make it less of a thing that it is, and I think that positive thinking is sometimes helpful.
Yeah, aye. It's I suppose that if they change the layout to anything, I suppose it's not just a shop. Even a website that I frequently look at, like the BBC football updates of news, and they put in the football scores, and they changed the layout even just slightly to make it look more fancy, or just to change it for the sake of changing it. Even that frustrates me. It just depends what mood I'm in, I suppose. I mean, if I've been dealing with a lot of things before that, and then that's like the final straw for it, that actually makes absolute sense. I don't think the changing layout of a shop um, is actually like the first thing or the first and major thing that would actually drive me crazy. It would usually be something on top of a lot of other things that have happened in the day or in the week or whatever. I think what it does remind me of is I always get wound up. Maybe not so much now, but how early they put things in for Christmas and all those different things. But then I think, what the hell are you moaning about? They're trying to sell stuff. Just be quiet. The reason I'm saying Christmas because that's the most extreme case in terms of selling stuff. But they
And it's
do
the
have a
furthest
thing.
away as well.
It's the furthest away. Um,
Thank goodness.
but
Yeah.
I do remember going into the shop and looking at it and then looking at the person that works in the shop going, why? And then they're going like that. It's no me. I only work here. And then I'm thinking, what am I moaning about? Just be quiet. It's the way they work. It's the way our world works in terms of it's the way the UK works. Let's just say in terms of capitalism, whatever. It's just selling stuff and whatever. So stop
It's
moaning.
daft as
Just
well.
deal
I
with
mean,
it.
people need enough time to organise this huge feast, don't they?
Hmm.
I am absolutely certain that it's absolutely human to organise a feast for a long time before it and look forward to it in that way and put things away, put your berries in your pots and hide them and make your best bread ready and get your pickles organised. And that's been going on for millennia. That's how we are as human beings. It's the winter festival, and we have to take part in a ceremony of preparation. So in some ways, those people who are complaining about capitalism, they're actually denying their heritage as human beings from early times. Put things away for the big feast.
Yeah, but generally, when you complain about something, you're narrow-minded and well, all right. Me, if I'm complaining about something, it's kind of narrow-minded and then it's a limited scope. And then when you sort of relax and go, what am I on about? Then you think about the bigger picture. But you're absolutely right. Um, the things I used to moan about, I don't moan about it now, and if I do, I keep it to myself.
I moan when the thing turns out not to have been moved and just have disappeared, stopped being sold, like the pound packets of pistachio nuts recently. I mean, when something that's you found good, not enough other folks do. It's not like they publish any lists anywhere to say that's happened. All the first varieties of kitchen soap that have gradually disappeared too.
Yeah, when something's right, we tend to like to do it. You know, we tend to, when we've organised what's right for us, we like to repeat those right things. If it works, do it again. Um, I don't believe that idea that's put about that we're inflexible to try new things. I am quite happy to eat a certain type of cake, and every now and again I will try a different type of cake, but it won't be as good as the cake that is my cake, and I want it like that if I can get it like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, um, best stick out and generally stay sticking out, but I do um, go for new experiences too.
There's this whole thing about us not having any flexibility, and I've just come back from Indonesia, and the things that I was eating and experimenting with, because otherwise you don't eat, they're way outside the stereotype. All these different kinds of street food that I was eating, and frankly, most of it was awful. And I prefer some of the meals that I get here. So, no, we do try things out. We do. And occasionally we will bring something back that we really enjoy, like a set of spices or something, so we can make the same tagine when we come back. But if we have found something that suits us really well, why should we change it?
Yeah, that is very true. That sort of stereotype that we're inflexible. I think flexibility, even as a compromise, eventually needs to be a choice or terms of a phasing choice in terms that you know a change is going to happen, so you adjust and you compromise. But when something changes all of a sudden, I mean, it's a good point that Morris comes up with. It's like you go to a shop to buy something that's no longer there and they don't sell it anymore and they don't sell it anywhere nearby. I mean, it's no longer available as easy as it was. I mean, yeah, I can imagine that would be a bit of a stressful moment because you're that used to getting something. Even though it does seem trivial to some people, but it's very important to others.
I
Absolutely.
think, like many of the posts that AUHD Surplus puts out, it's a very good post, and it's humorous as well, because there's that point about, if you keep changing things, I have to use up energy and intelligence and attention that I don't want to use. I want to be able to just go to the normal place, pick it up, put it in, so that I can be thinking about something else, frankly. So it is an irritation that the marketers do to move things around, and we would have an easier life if we could just do it on automatic. So yeah, true.
The next post is from Neurodivergent Girl again. Just to recap, neurodivergent girl's a personal blog, rising creator, married mum of 2 boys, diagnosed ADHD and autistic (low support needs). This is a safe place. And this just kind of stuck out to me. It's 2 books, one small and one big. And there's no really supporting text. So the 2 books, one is Compliments I Remember and Criticism I Remember is the other book. And the smaller book is Compliments I Remember. And the bigger book is Criticism I Remember. That rings so true with me. Whether it's autistic or not, I've no idea, but I certainly remember the criticism more than any compliments. And I seem to take criticism not better, but I seem to take it more on board than compliments. Compliments seem to be embarrassing, which I don't understand that. Compliments is nice, but it's just like it's that sort of scenario. I wonder what other thoughts are.
I want to go back to the last one because I missed some things that Justin put. He's put definitely that we're not inflexible people. We just enjoy our routines and we enjoy our comfort foods as well. So having things as they are. He's putting his thoughts on what I was saying. And he also says he agreed with you, Harry, that he doesn't always immediately take note of changes to the layout of a store or supermarket. But other things distract him and that adds to it, so that changes things. As far as this post goes, it's human. Human beings are much more tuned in to danger than they are safety, and they're tuned into criticism and difficulty more than they are to things going well. And it's all about survival. It's all about what's going to hurt us and keeping aware of the things that are hurting us or bringing us back and stopping us being able to survive that next meal or through that next war. So it's actually natural, and you can't do a lot about being hardwired to notice bad shit more than you're hardwired to notice the good stuff. People go down all kinds of roads: yoga, meditation, thinking in the moment, and all kinds of ways to overcome this built-in human thing of essential pessimism. Realizing it is part of it.
Apologies, I was away for a minute or two. Have we moved on? What post are we on?
No, we're still on the. We're still mixing between the last one, the books, and also Justin is still mentioning, and he's saying how it frustrates when things move in the supermarket and when things are changed in the shopper routine. But he also earlier says he often doesn't notice it as well. So that can be that sudden dealing with a surprise that you didn't expect as well. So there's two things that are going on that he is expressing there, I think, in the text.
Yeah, thanks, Justin. The thing about the books is, I think I've said it before, it's like, it seems like even though I take criticism personally very hard, it seems like I take criticism more on board than compliments. It's like I've heard people say, "Oh, it's a Scottish thing or a Scottish male thing, or even just a Scottish thing in general, in terms of taking compliments for anything, even though you've done a good job on something. It's not hard to accept, but it's hard to listen to. It's uncomfortable. It's cringeworthy. Um, I don't understand that. I mean, is it autistic as well? For what?
It's definitely autistic as well. It's not just your culture. Sorry, in my opinion, and all that sort of rowing back on insisting. Yeah, in my opinion.
I mean, we get a lot of social criticism, don't we? More than our share. So criticism is a big crisis red light. I'm probably very conscious as a learned routine that you can't always even be sure a compliment is not just a feel better thing. Can you actually believe it?
Is it because that we do things automatic? Or, well, I say we, I should say me. In my experience, I do a lot of things automatic in terms of my skill that it's took me a long time to even accept, to even admit to myself it's a skill and it's something that I'm good at. I can't even compliment myself. The admin things, and I seem to be able to do it automatically, and I seem to be able to do it in different projects at the one time to a certain degree. In terms of administration and financial, because it can all be done on a computer.
You see, that goes exactly against all these people that talk about monotropism, doesn't it?
Yes, yes, it does. Although, in fairness, not in fairness, but for what it might be, is because a lot of the things I do is quite similar. Then again, it's different things. I mean, I've kind of updating a report from one organisation, and then I'm preparing a meeting for another organisation. But I think it's because I'm the one that's doing it for both, and people appreciate it being done. That there's never really that much criticism. There might be a few suggestions if there's something need to be changed or there's a slight mistake, but I'm kind of basically in most things left to do it, and all I seem to get is compliments.
Yeah, I think I've certainly decided to, as soon as I get some kind of compliment, is to breathe in and say just accept it and just don't let it make you think that somebody might be being sarcastic, undermining, or manipulative in the compliment, because that's often been the case that's happened. Just accept it and take it at face value and live like that, and it actually works out better. But it's difficult to do because I think it is very much an autistic thing that we hide our lights under the bushel. We get embarrassed by the sudden social spotlight on us, getting compliments, that kind of thing. So yeah, it is a thing. I wish I could remember the thing I was going to say next. Oh yeah, it's what you described, being on a computer and being able to move from tasks, even though they're similar tasks, I think is very much a part of autistic abilities to multitask that I have seen in autistic people that I haven't seen to the same degree in non-autistic people. And that is having computer setups where they're running lots of different applications at the same time. And I come from a world where it used to be that you had to leave a program, we used to call the apps then, to run something. So you had to divert your attention to something else, and then another thing, and another thing. And on a computer, you actually had maybe 15 different programs all open at the same time, all at a different stage of doing things, and you were moving between them, an email program, answering a question, answering all at the same time, constantly, while a phone is ringing. And I think actually often in the right setting the autistic human is able to super multitask, which kind of flies in the face of this monotropism for me.
Yeah, it's actually an interesting point you come up with, because what I do remember when I was at Oxfam in Helensburgh is that way of just focusing at one thing at a time had to be the way done because it was done physically. It was done on computer as well, but it was done more physically than it was done on computer, for instance, because it involved because I did the admin, but also did the financials, like counting pennies and stuff like that. And when it comes to things like that, definitely one thing at a time. But when it comes to like computer programs, which makes things a lot easier, can do two or three things at once, especially if they're very similar. Which I have that position currently, preparing like for three meetings at the same time because I'm doing three correspondence preparation for the agenda at the same time. But it's simplistic enough to follow. But I certainly couldn't count money for two different things at the one time. I suppose who could? Well, I suppose some could. It's an interesting one though. Just depends on the situation.
Well, I think it's quite possible we've lost the Podbean Live hookup actually, but we do still appear to have text for the last couple of minutes here, Harry.
All right, well, it's now 2 minutes to go. So thanks everyone for the conversation today. It was really interesting as it always is. Thanks to the people that have shared the Facebook post that we've kind of discussed tonight. Just the amount of discussion that comes from just one post is always amazes me, and it's always interesting. So thanks for that again. So this is Spectrum Voices Conversation here every Sunday, 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. UK time, and 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, United States time difference. So thank you again, and I look forward to doing this next time. So thanks for listening to us, and good night.
Thank you, bye.
Very funny, Stuart. Who's that with you? I'm just looking at the recordings. We need to stay in the studio. Let's have a look. Everybody says it's uploading, but none of them are finished yet. Hi, Stuart. How did that go for you? Were you interested listening in on that?